Hey, what's going on, everyone? It's Kyle Henderson along with Tony Sukalis and Tyler Waldrop coming to you from Tuscaloosa, Alabama. Today, we continue our 20 for 20 series talking about our top offensive breakout players for the season. How you guys doing, first of all, before we get started? Tony, you guys, let's start with you. You doing all right?
Yeah, doing pretty well.
Tyler, you survived the storms, I see.
Yeah, I'm doing all right. Survived the storms, surviving the pandemic. Just I miss kind of driving around and like just going places.
All right, so
I
glad
think driving's still allowed,
yeah,
right?
driving
Yeah,
still,
driving's allowed, man.
but
But I
everything
have
else.
nowhere to go.
Yeah, everything else is frowned upon. Thanks for liking. Thanks for subscribing. Before we continue, please give us a thumbs up on the video. And today we're talking, as I mentioned, top offensive breakout players. Our next video will be top defensive breakout players. We're also going to be talking some Heisman hopefuls for the 2020 season. We'll go one by one. We'll start with Tony. Tony, who is your first offensive breakout player for the 2020 season?
Yeah, so when you look at the breakout player, I really see Trey Sanders being that guy. He's a guy, a former five-star guy, #1 overall recruit. I really think he's, would have been a big part of Alabama's offense last season, and I think this season he's going to step into that role. I really see him kind of sharing carries with Najee Harris. We talked yesterday about, will Najee Harris break the all-time rushing record? And the reason why I said no was because of Trey Sanders and what he can bring and the big part he'll be a part about this offense.
Yeah, and I have to ask you, Tony, regarding Trey Sanders. We saw sprinkles of him last season during the 2019 season. What particularly did you like about him? Because he's a different style back than Najee Harris or Brian Robinson. I mean, those guys floating around 230 pounds. Trey Sanders looks like he could be an all-purpose type back. Could you talk a little bit about what you saw from Trey Sanders during last season?
It's hard to pick up from like what we actually did see and see how it translates into a game-like setting.
Mm-hmm.
But, when you look at him, I think you see maybe a little bit of Josh Jacobs and that kind of change of pace guy. I think, we saw Alabama put Najee Harris and Josh Jacobs on the field at the same time. I think we could see the same thing with Najee Harris and Trey Sanders. If they wanted to go out of that, kind of that pistol role where they had both the running backs on the field. He can definitely contribute in the pass game. I know Najee showed that he can contribute in the pass game as well, but I really like just the versatility he brings to the offense.
Yeah, and I think before we get to you, Tyler, I want to elaborate on Tony's point a little bit. I think with Trey Sanders, just like Tony said, I mean, the ability for Najee Harris to catch the ball out of the backfield and then to have another weapon in the backfield like Trey Sanders who could do the same thing, I really like that combination. So I'm not surprised to see our first offensive breakout player going to Trey Sanders. Nice work, Tony. Tyler, we'll go into you next. In terms of an offensive player that could break out this season, who are you going with?
So I haven't seen Trey Sanders yet, so I can't really speak to him. Obviously, a lot of hype around him. But I did see John Mechie at the A-Day game last year, and obviously had a huge day, named an MVP, and then kind of disappeared in the season. Didn't really show up, and he really shouldn't have. There's not really room for him with Judy, Devontae Smith, Henry Ruggs, Jalen Waddle, and then Najee was balling out down the stretch. I mean, there really wasn't room for him in this offense. Two of those guys are gone now, and I think John Mechie is in a better position than anyone else to kind of slide in and be that #3 receiver this year. And I think he kind of showed what he can do in the A-Day game. And, I know some of his teammates were comparing him to Waddle afterwards. So, I'm going to roll with him as my sort of breakout player for next year.
What about you, Tony, when we talk about a player like John Mechie? You saw him last year. You saw him at the A-Day game. You believe he was the MVP. What do you like about John Mechie? And do you think that Alabama won't even it's going to be hard to replace guys like Jerry Jeudy and Henry Ruggs. But, I mean, when you have John Mechie just stepping in, I mean, he seems ultra talented. Do you agree with that? And what do you like about John Mechie?
I like him. I think, he's in competition for that third receiver role. If he nails that starting role, I think, Alabama likes to run out of 3 receiver sets. So, obviously, 2 of those are going to be Devontae Smith and Jalen Waddle. I think John Mechie is probably the most talented of what Alabama has after those 2 guys. And so we've just seen the 3 receiver thing kind of work for Alabama. So I really like Mac Jones coming back or Bryce Young if he becomes the quarterback. So he's going to have a capable passer throwing to him. And obviously he showed in the A-Day game. I think it's easy, though, to get carried away from 8A game, considering he was going against Alabama's second string defensive backs. But that being said, he showed a lot of athleticism in that game, and he's gotten great reviews from his teammates. I really think he's probably the leader for that third receiver spot. So if you're looking from a breakout standpoint, if he is that third receiver, I like him. And you also got to consider the fact that Devontae Smith and Jalen Waddle will probably take up most of the defense's attention. So you look at a guy like John Mechie, equally as talented. If you overlook him, he could be open for some big plays.
Yeah, I think a player like John Mechie, like I said earlier, ultra dynamic in the sense that he has great route running abilities, great hands. I mean, he showed what he could do during A-Day. I wouldn't read too much if you like the Pro Football Focus numbers, because he has a really low Pro Football Focus number, but he didn't play that much. So you can't really take too much stock in that. But I think he's a guy who can certainly contribute and have a monster season this year. Now, Tony, before we move on and actually I provide my breakout player, I want to ask you about one more wide receiver. And this is a player that I always get questions about, Terrell Shavers. Could he be a guy? Will he ever be a guy that rises up and does something at Alabama? I mean, you look at him, 6'6". He's rumored to be like a 4.4 type guy. What do you think about Terrell Shavers? And could this be another guy that Alabama fans need to watch for to have a big season in 2020?
I mean, if you're looking for a receiver that Alabama just doesn't have, is something that can bring a total difference to the unit, it's Terrell Shavers. If you really can run a 4.4 at 6'6", I mean, that's something that Alabama hasn't had in a while. Alabama's receivers have all been good of late, but they haven't had that 6'6", even a really 6'4" guy. I think Terrell Shavers, I think you look at Trayshawn Holden coming in as a freshman and Shavers, and that might be the only two scholarship receivers 6'4" and over.
Yeah.
So if you're looking for red zone threats, obviously if he's running a 4.4, anything close to that, he could be, a home run kind of threat. He's a guy that, for whatever reason, maybe it's just the talent in front of him, hasn't had a chance to shine. But, I mean, if you're looking at – he's a great definition of a guy that could be a big-time breakout player, because if he really can do all these things, it's going to be hard to stop. He could be a mismatch nightmare for a team.
Yeah, good stuff. I agree. I mean, every time we see him out there, it's he just looks like the specimen that could certainly do something on the field. So maybe it's just kind of time and waiting. For my guy, I'm going for the breakout player on the offensive side of the ball. I kind of did I didn't go offense. I went for kind of special teams, but he does offense, considering, I mean, if he's the field goal kicker, if he's if he's on special teams, that's Will Reichard. I think he could be a guy during the 2020 season that comes back and has a really big season. I mean, last year during his freshman season, I mean, we saw what could be something special during that early season game against Duke. But I think this could be a guy who really comes back and finally takes charge of that kicking position, especially kicking field goals for Alabama and PATs. I knew PATs seemed so simple, but Alabama's known to miss quite a few over the last couple seasons. So I'm going with Will Reichard. We definitely want to hear from you in the comment box. We're just talking offense. And if you want to slide in a special teams offensive player, go ahead in the comment box. But who is your breakout player on the offensive side of the ball for the 2020 season? Let us know in the comment box. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe. Coming to you from Tuscaloosa, Alabama, Kyle Henderson, Tony Scalas, Tyler Waldrop. Catch you guys next time.